Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to weigh in on the little debate, quite a big debate actually, about what is a working person. Because everyone's got their eye on the budget next week. We know tax rises are coming. Lots of people agree that there should be tax rises, but also lots of people think, but not me. So, what is it that Labour mean by working people? But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily political commentary, please click the subscribe button so you don't miss out. So yes, the situation at the moment is we need an increase in day-to-day public spending. That's what the country wants. The country does not want more austerity. Thank you very much. They don't want another government saying, yes, sorry, things are a bit tight, so we're going to have more austerity, the thing that caused the things to be tight in the first place. So the government are quite clear they're going to increase spending. It doesn't matter how many people say, oh, this budget we're getting is going to be an austerity budget. No, it's not. Now, if you increase day-to-day spending in any areas of public expenditure, then, as Rachel Reeves correctly said, and no one is disagreeing with her for this, no one, you either have to cut expenditure somewhere else or you have to raise taxes. It's really that simple. What you don't borrow for it, because that's what Liz Truss tried to do, and look what happened there. So you are going to increase taxes or reduce spending elsewhere, and in reality, given the amount of extra spending that Labour have been planning, then it's quite likely we're going to see both. So, where do those taxes come from? Because it's really that simple. You know, if you're going to have an overall increase in day-to-day spending, you are going to have an overall increase in taxes. Everyone agrees with that. The public want that. The public want that. Where does it come from? Well, people have obviously honed in on Labour's promise to protect working people. That's what they said. Working people will not have to shoulder the burden of this. And Labour were also clear about why that is. It says those with the broadest shoulders should shoulder more of the burden, but that people who are working people should be protected, which inevitably means, because no one wants to pay extra taxes, inevitably means that people are then they're trying to work out how they can class themselves as working people. That's what's really happening here. Remember, it's always an interesting debate what is meant by working person. I've said so myself, particularly when talking about working class. And I've said many times, I discussed it in the stream on Politics Social with Graham again today, so I won't repeat too much of that. It's always interesting because when you sort of put, oh, well, is this person working class? Is that person working class? Yeah, they're all working class. So they said, right, define working class. And whenever you ask, or whenever I have asked anyone to define working class, it always excludes some of the people that they think are working class. So it's really hard, I think, to come up with a definition. But we're not talking about working class, we're just talking about working people here. Should be easier. The standard definition of a worker is someone who is an employee and mostly does manual work. Now, that's the standard definition, nice and simple. However, that is no good for Labour's definition. They can't use that. Now, why can't they use that? Well, because there are a lot of people who will do non-manual work. There's a lot of people who, will just sit at a desk working at a computer. That is not manual work. And yet they only get paid £25,000 a year, something like that. Some not even that, some a bit more. And clearly those people should also be protected from these tax rises. It's that simple. Now, during the election, Labour seemed to have a fairly straightforward definition, which is that working people were those on low to middle incomes. And that's what I've gone with since. Wes Streeting said it in an interview, sounded perfectly reasonable to me. He obviously wasn't just throwing this off the top of his head. For Wes Streeting is someone who's very on message. He would not have just blurted that out if it hadn't already been decided at strategic level. So that is obviously what the rest of the shadow cabinet were going along with as well. However, this Wednesday in Deputy Prime Minister's Question Time, Oliver Dowden, the outgoing Deputy Prime Minister, Deputy Conservative Leader, Deputy Shadow Prime Minister, I guess. There's no such thing really, but never mind. He put it to Rayner, said, what is your definition then? What is your definition? And this surprised me. Angela Rayner was quite evasive about it. So now it's quite clear that at the cabinet level, there's now a bit of a feeling that senior Labour figures should not be too clear about the definition. I'm thinking, well, why? If you were going to be evasive at all, wouldn't during the election campaign be the time to be evasive? Like, why would you be evasive now? I don't get that. I don't understand that. But nonetheless, she was. And I thought that was a bit weird. Why would that be? And I was trying to think, is it because they would try and go, well, what do you mean by middle income? What do you mean by middle income? Because to me, it's quite straightforward. The median income in the UK last year was about £35,000, which means this year it's presumed. We don't know because this year's not over yet. It's probably a little bit above £35,000. So that is your middle income, right? It's really simple. If you're earning about that or below, you are protected. Now, you can understand how some people say, well, put a figure on it. Put an upper limit. Anyone above this is not protected, is what you're saying. Labour don't have to fall into that trap. They could just say, middle, it's round about the median income. And you go, well, what exactly? You don't have to say exactly. It doesn't matter what exactly. Because whatever tax rises the government are going to bring in next week, if it will protect people on £35,000 a year, it will also protect those on 45. Well, yeah, probably 45 if I think about it. So they don't have to give a specific figure at all. And yet they have been like umming and ahhing about it. And I think, well, why is that? So then inevitably, because the question doesn't, if you evade a question, the question doesn't go away. It comes back. It comes back harder. So then Keir Starmer's asked about it today. And he talks about, they're talking about, well, people with shares and landlords and stuff like that. So, well, not really. And that, again, it should be obvious. If you are deriving your income from shares, you're not doing the work for it, right? If you're deriving your income because, you're a landlord, so you have property. You might have worked for the money to buy the property, but your income itself does not derive from labour. So of course you're not classed as a working person. So then people go, oh, what about people who are like road workers, but they have a few shares? He says, yeah, that's fine because they're not deriving their income from the shares, are they? That's just like a top up. Their main income is coming from their bloody salary. So Starmer then says, so what I'm thinking of are people who go out to work and they get paid in the form of usually a monthly check, even though no one gets a check anymore, Starmer. Get with the times. It's not a check straight into your bank. But we take the meaning, a monthly wage, right? And further, he says, and people who can't just write a check. Again, no one does this. Never mind. But people who can't just write a check if they get into difficulty, like if there's some emergency, they need a new boiler or just the car collapses and they need a new one. Things like that. Some emergency comes along. And so that makes sense to me. Because now you're talking about someone who goes out to earn a wage, and that wage does not allow them to put aside sufficient savings to deal with like a rainy day, a sudden emergency. It's like your salary, you might have, and he did make it clear he's not saying that you're not a working person if you've got some savings, right? He's just saying, can you afford to, if something went wrong, like something went wrong and you had to pay out a few £1,000s to get yourself out of this mess, could you do it? If the answer is no, then you're probably a working person, right? And that is important. That is the important distinction to make with just a worker, because what Labour are really trying to say is that those whose incomes do not allow them to easily absorb more tax rises should be protected. That's what they're basically saying. They're saying it's a priority here. You're already, if you're on a low to medium income, you're already struggling with the cost of living. The last thing you want right now is extra taxes. But the country needs extra taxes to pay for better public services. So someone's going to have to pay for them. Who should have to pay for them? People who are earning enough to be able to put money aside for emergencies and, do you know what, tax rises. That's all it really is about. A lot of the wider debate seems to be by people who just want to have their say on what they think a working person is. And I love that. I get into that myself. I love those sort of discussions. But that's not relevant. Like I said, Labour are not looking to come up with a legal definition of working people. They're not trying to tell you how you should define a working person. They're just trying to explain that they are going to protect certain people from tax rises. And those people are the ones on incomes that are at the lower end. That's it. That's all they're trying to do. And a lot of the people who are engaged in the debate, some of them are just, as I say, it's fun to debate what is and is not a working person. Some of them are just clearly people who think, well, I work terribly hard, you know, so I must be covered as well. And it's like, yeah, we're not saying that people who aren't classed as workers don't work hard as well. But remember where the term worker comes from. It comes from someone who's salaried on, you know, a modest wage, a low to modest wage, usually doing manual work. You might, you know, there are people who earn millions of pounds a year and they work, do you know what, loads of hours a day for them. Yeah, I'm not saying they just sit at home with their feet up and the money trickles in. We're not just saying everyone's like Jacob Rees-Mogg. No, not at all. But you're not a working person. Do you know what I mean? No one's going to suggest you are a working person. If you are a working person and you have a few shares, you're still a working person. The few shares you just top up, right? You know, when I was a teacher and I did YouTube at the time, so I was earning some income from YouTube, I would still be classed as a worker under this definition. But if you are deriving all of your income from shares, no, you ain't a worker. You know, you're not. You might be putting work into where you put those shares, or you might not. A lot of people don't. They just hand it all over to an investment manager and they'll deal with it. But you're not a working person by any definition. So that's really all it is. It's you know, no need to get het up about it. It's purely about, we want to protect a certain group of people from tax rises. We are going to need tax rises. You know, we want to eventually grow the economy so that the overall rate of tax can come down, but we still get more tax revenues. But we cannot stimulate growth without having to spend. You've got to, you know, speculate to accumulate, as they say. And so we're just having to protect the people who can least afford it. That's all it is. But there we go anyway. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Thanks very much for listening. Don't forget to click the like button and to subscribe for the channel. You could join for memberships as well if you want. And until next time, I'll see you later.